journey of Power Vigyan Ashram and what we created so far, and what is its mandate and how we are doing. So
Sure.
I guess Sudha, are you introducing Ashok ji?
Yes.
Yeah. So Siddha, just start your introduction and subsequently Ashok ji will take up. Thanks Ashok ji once again to having accepted the invitation from Sitara, which is very close to your missions and which we have been sort of associated with, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 years back since your father's time. Since your father's time. Yeah.
Yeah, since inception.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Incidentally, today we are celebrating also the National Education Day in IIT Bombay.
So, yes, so I heard.
Yeah, so the title of your talk is very appropriate for this occasion. Then you said, technology and development, I mean, education and development, we have to link.
Yes. That has been our core right from the beginning.
Yes.
Sir, should we begin?
Yeah, please.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sitara Seminar Series. Today we have here with us Ashok Kalbag sir from Vigyan Ashram, and he's going to present on the title Development Through Education and Education Through Development. And the bio of the speaker is Ashok sir graduated from IIT Bombay with a degree in mechanical engineering in 1974. He joined the design center in Godrej and worked on the design of locks and later process development of refrigerators. He later joined Class Equipment in Nashik before joined Mechatronic Engineers in Mumbai. During over 22 years of his last stint, he worked on design and development of resistance welding systems as general manager. He introduced new and innovative welding systems in the field from nuclear to railways, besides automobile and appliance industries. In February 2008, he quit to become a full-time Secretary General of Pan IIT Alumni India to help drive nation-building initiatives till 2012. He then became Secretary of Indo-US Collaboration in Engineering Education India, which focuses on improving engineering education pedagogy to achieve better outcomes in the rapidly changing technology. He is associated with Vigyan Ashram, Pabal near Pune, which is an NGO, working in the field of basic technical education in rural India with the motto, Education Through Development and Development Through Education. He participated in the trainer workshop of I Create, a Pan IIT Alumni India supported initiative for developing young entrepreneurs. He was awarded Distinguished Service Award by IIT Bombay in 2015. On behalf of Sitara, I welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Should I start then?
Yes, we can start, sir.
I'll need to share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes. Yes, very much.
I suppose it's good enough, clarified.
Sir, can we take the full screen mode?
I was trying that, but oh yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, this is much better. Yeah.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me here. Like I was just chatting with Dr. Shah, Vigyan Ashram started a year or two before Sitara started. And incidentally, Dr. Date joined IIT when I was in 4th and 5th year. And ever since he joined, I've been very familiar with the appropriate technology words that he used to always keep using. And so very fond memories of Sitara all along. As you are all aware, Vigyan Ashram basically had started because there's a big rural-urban divide, and this divide is mainly because of lack of infrastructure and a lot to do with the education itself. So the whole idea was how do we go about trying to bridge this gap. But one of the main things we need to also understand is that our education system is pretty dysfunctional, because out of all the children who join the formal schooling system, I think more than 80% drop out before they even finish 10th. So that was a big challenge as to what is causing all this. Now, if you look at these quotes, it is a miracle that curiosity survives formal education by Albert Einstein. And I've never let my schooling interfere with my education, Mark Twain. Gives you a glimpse of what to expect and why Vigyan Ashram was started. Because obviously the formal education system didn't quite meet the requirements of okay. The next slide shows what Mahatma Gandhi said. The principal idea is to impart the whole education of the body, mind, and soul through the handicraft that is taught to the children. As I would like to concise takeaway from this is basically learning by doing. And that is what we are entirely focused on, quite a lot in synergy with what Sitara itself is doing. So what is education? If you observe an infant before it enters the formal education system, it is learning by doing, by using all the 5 senses it has. When it first begins to learn how to crawl and goes around the place, any new toy or anything, it will try to shake to see if it will make any noise. It will try to put it in its mouth to see what it tastes like. And so basically, all the 5 senses are used in the process of learning. It is nothing but gaining an experience of the new object that one has come across. It wants to explore the surrounding. And in fact, most of the time, you'll find parents trying to restrict their children, whereas the innate quality is basically trying to explore and learn whatever it can. And also you will learn, you'll observe that it is outcome-based learning, because no one tells the child how to crawl or how to start walking or talking, but it only observes and learns from its environment. And you never have the sense that a child has not learned to crawl or to walk. The sense of failure is not there. If it falls, it will just get up and try again. And failure is, in that sense, only a stepping stone for success ultimately. Curiosity and enthusiasm to explore are innate in any child which comes into this world. It's only the formal education system, which Mark Twain and Albert Einstein try to highlight, are the ones which try to curb this curiosity and enthusiasm. And that is why you find that after going through the formal education system, you have more a sense of human robots rather than thinking persons trying to solve any problem. Let me just give you a small brief introduction on what is Vigyan Ashram. It identified education as a key to development, like I have been trying to say. It was started in '83 by Dr. S.S. Kalbag as an autonomous center of Indian Institute of Education, which is based in Pune. This was essentially a matter of convenience because they had similar ideals as what we had, and it saved us the hassle of going through the administrative process of setting up a new entity. Why it was called Vigyan Ashram is because Vigyan, science, was his religion, and ashram represents simple living, high thinking. Anyone who has visited Vigyan Ashram would appreciate what simple living, high thinking in real life means. Just excuse me, there seems to be a bit of a technical hitch. I'll just try to recapture this. Yeah, the main objectives take benefits of science to rural areas. That was the main objective of Vigyan Ashram, to bridge this gap and introduce the scientific method or natural process of learning. Now, what is this scientific method or natural process of learning? It's nothing but you observe first, take measurements, do some recording, study the data, do some classification, maintain documentation, have an information exchange to share ideas, base your hypothesis and testing, and the iteration goes on. So this is nothing but natural process that anyone does. Like I mentioned, how small children are learning. They are doing nothing but something equivalent of this. Then education is the best medium for disseminating technology for a very simple reason. No one comes around telling you that for 25 years I've been doing this. Now, who are you to come and tell me that I should do it differently? So you'll always find that children are much more receptive to ideas and new ideas. And if someone's child says they want to try something, then the parent is more likely to adopt it. And therefore, we always thought that education was the best medium for disseminating technology. This is what Vigyan Ashram looked like some time back. Now, of course, it's a little more different. The trees obviously are much thicker and much more coverage is there. But one thing which is unique is that this entire campus has been built by the people who stay in Vigyan Ashram, because this was part of the learning by doing. And if anyone who has visited will see the different structures and how they have evolved over time, because each structure was slightly different based on the improvements considered in the previous version of that. So a lot of things kept on changing as we went along. Vigyan Ashram's basic model is on the basic tenets, which are learning by doing. This is all about experience and learn as a team, because nothing in real life really can be achieved by an individual all by himself. What tends to happen is that people will have to cooperate and learn to collaborate with others and work as a team. Unfortunately, in our system, we never do this or are never taught how to work as a team. Though these days you will find you have a lot more interdisciplinary departments and subjects and a lot of projects. And most of the learning, I think, happens there rather than in the classrooms alone. The other aspect of earn while you learn was basically to inculcate the value system and failure as an opportunity. It also helped because in the rural areas where there was a lot of poverty and school children very often could not afford to go to school because they were required to help in the family holding or to generate some sort of income. So earn while you learn was a good concept to begin with, because they could parallelly learn how to earn, and that became a test bed for them as they progressed in life. The other thing which we always insisted on was multi-skill training, in the sense that it was always interdisciplinary experiences, and you couldn't have any verticals of any particular topic or subject, because unless you had multi-skills, it was not possible to succeed in any one particular discipline as such. You could specialize as you went along, but you had to have a basic all-round development. And the fourth was, of course, community service, because real life problems and their relevance are only understood and appreciated if you deal with the community all the time. So whenever we select a project, we always make it a rule that there has to be someone who is willing to pay for the solution that you are going to work on in the project. So unless you have a specific consumer who is going to be like a quality check thing on the project you're working, and the price at which he can afford it and he would like to have it, we don't really proceed, because then it doesn't become, it should not become an esoteric project, but a project which will be of direct value to the community at large. The other advantage which we have because of this is that our curriculum is always relevant. Every time the new project or a new batch begins, they need to look around and see what are the current problems that the society has, not pick something from the shelf and say, okay, this is the project which I'm going to work on. But they have to go out into the community, realize what is the problem, pick it up, and then begin to work on it. So the curriculum is always going to be relevant, and it is always refreshed every time a new batch comes on. So the takeaway is basically new skills and with self-confidence, because as you begin to work on new problems, everyone is a learner there. Some, by virtue of their experience, are a little more experienced, but everyone is essentially a learner, because the projects are always new. And therefore, once you start working on it and achieve some kind of solutions and see the benefit of it on the beneficiary or the consumer, you begin to feel a lot more confidence, have a confidence that yes, you can do it. And therefore, the basic takeaway of all this basic tenets is new skills with self-confidence. What we basically do for functionality purposes is we have 4 sections. One is mechanics and materials, which essentially deals with a workshop, construction, electrical, drawing, and all such similar things where you need to produce an article directly. So this kind of thing is clubbed under mechanics and materials. We have no restriction on what is the actual kind of thing that is required, as long as someone needs it and someone can work on it, and you can manage to get those items there. Energy and environment is another one. So right from the beginning, we've had some ingress into solar power or biogas, pedal power, LED lights, even survey of surrounding areas. Even the village panchayat sometimes requests us to do civil survey for them for some of their projects. Then prospecting for water. Now, all these things which are so relevant in rural areas become part of this aspect, and it falls into one of these 4 verticals, or rather the departments which are functional, and therefore always are very relevant to the community at large. By now, the community themselves, when they think of a project, or they think that, okay, why not like this, or why not do it something like this, they approach us and see if we can convert it into a project for them, and put our resources to uh, make that project and bring it out. Then you have home and health, where we have a food lab, blood grouping. Now you'll be surprised if when you come and see that even 8th and 9th standard students are able to do take a blood sample and do the blood grouping and hemoglobin count and all that. This also, like I mentioned earlier, service to the community. In rural areas where you have very poor infrastructure and for primary health, you will find these students doing this blood grouping tests and hemoglobin count, and anemia being the big hurdle in rural areas. They find that, okay, so and so people are anemic, and then in the food lab they are taught how to develop from whatever local produce is there into some kind of some recipes, and like groundnut and jaggery you make into chicky, for instance, which is a very good source for iron. And so how to overcome that, and periodic testing of their blood gives them a feedback on how their anemia is improving or not improving. So a lot of these things, they become aware, and they do it because they understand what they are doing, and they appreciate what they are learning. It's not disconnected from what is being taught to them, and what is required, and they see the results, and so they are much better appreciative of what they are learning. So in effect, they are really learning something which will help them in life, and not just for the exams. Then we also have, like I said, agriculture and animal husbandry, where farming, greenhouse, cattle, goat, poultry, aquaponics, the works, you name it. Anyone who wants to try something new. In Pabad, for instance, earlier capsicum was not grown at all, but now because of some better water facilities, farmers have started growing capsicum, and we have been instrumental in providing them saplings, and we grow saplings as part of our teaching our students how to take care of a nursery and how to generate those saplings. And they in turn are able to sell these saplings to the farmers who want it at a much lower cost, obviously, and they in turn are get paid for it. So it is kind of subsidizing their education as well. In all these courses, irrespective of which department, and incidentally, the students go through each department in every quarter. Uh, they all work in the projects, and in all the projects, one basic structure is always there, that they have to first prepare a plan of what they are going to do in the project. Then they have to prepare a bill of material, because there's always some material content in the project that they are working on. Then the recording, costing, accounting, documenting, then spreading the thing, giving a seminar and telling the other students what is their project and how it is being operated. So all these things are basically giving them, let me say, it's like a simulator for an entrepreneurship qualities that they'll need once they graduate from here. So irrespective, without calling it as a subject or without specifying any of these things, they understand what is costing, they understand accounting, what documentation is essential and should be maintained, and why they should maintain it. So all these things are invariably, they pick up as they go along, rather than being taught as a subject with no relevance to their real life situation. Now, some of these are the technologies which have been developed. This is a rice dehusking machine. This was again from Rajguru Nagar, which is the nearest town to us. And there was an NGO there where the self-help groups, a lot of ladies used to pound rice to make this dehusking hand-pounded rice, which you normally find in the markets. And they were complaining of a lot of labor fatigue. Because of that, their shoulders and arms would ache. And so they came to us and gave us a price limit and said, we would like some machine like this. And after a couple of iterations, we started making this machine. Today, this machine has been developed by a manufacturer, and he sells it on our behalf because we are not interested in the manufacturing part. So he has developed and he sells it on a commercial basis with due acknowledgement, of course. And it's kind of a social enterprise kind of thing that he is running. So most of our products and things are like this. This is, you have these dry fruit rolls which are cut into slices. And one of these guys from Lonavala, he wanted that manually cutting it was never very easy, and no consistency was there. Width of each slice used to be a little different. So he wanted us if we could automate it. So we had made this automatic machine. And since we developed it for him, he promptly took it and put it into a room and locked it, because he didn't want his competition to have a look at it and understand how it was made or where it was made. And so he was very thrilled with it, and he was getting very consistent results, and at a much faster and better rate. Then not only that, we also had in rural areas hearing aid and things like that would be rather expensive if got from the city and made very professionally. So we learned how to develop used bit of electronics and things like that, and made a very low cost hearing aid, which was very well again accepted in Pabad. This again was another thing which we were looking at. Basically, we found that groundnut farmers, for instance, how to do some value addition. So they would put, let's say, groundnuts into a container like this, and with a hydraulic press, compress it so that the oil would flow out. And they found that whatever was left behind, if it was soaked in water, it would again fluff up. And so they could sell it either as diet peanuts with masala and as a snack, or in some cases, actually, if there is too much oil, they have a problem while preparing chikki. So they like this, some of the oil extracted, and this oil obviously fetched them a separate price. So they were very happy, because with this, their output and their earning increased. These days, with people like Venkis who supply one-day-old chicks, and then they collect the broilers at a later date. They don't supply unless you ask for some in thousands or 10,000 or so chicks, and it's too big an amount for any village entrepreneur if he wants to have a backyard poultry. So we developed these incubators where you can have anywhere from 50, 100 or maybe 300, 500, maximum 1,000 eggs in these kind of incubators which were developed. This again, the person who was working on this incubator, he's developed a control, microprocessor based controller and everything. And he has gone into business just making these. And generally he makes approximately 2 or 3 of these 500 egg incubators on an average on a monthly basis. He is based in Wagoli near Pune, and he's doing pretty well for himself with this. So not only was the product developed, so was an entrepreneur who developed, and the business was set up. I think there's a bit of a problem again. Let me just stop sharing this and try sharing again. Anyway, I think we have similar projects like this, and I'm not sure how much time there is, but I would rather spend instead of speaking like a monologue from my side, I would rather switch to question and answers, which would be more interesting and more relevant. I think that might be a better way of proceeding, if that is okay.
Sure, sir. We'll take the questions.
Yeah,
now.
I mean, just in case if you want to show any further, you want to share the PPT, we can try to share it from our end also. If there are any further slides you wanted to show.
No, just one or two for one or two other products, but nothing very relevant. I mean,
Okay.
get the gist of it by what I've shown. So the only other thing which I would like to say is that initially and generally, when you talk of a rural center and rural technology, people get a misconception that it is, what should I say, not at all high tech. But you'll be surprised, we are pretty high tech. Way back when there was not even a mobile connection in Pabal, we were the first to introduce WLL technology, and we were providing internet connections to industry in 25-kilometer radius of Pabal. And subsequently, we also got the Fab Lab. And because of the Fab Lab, we had 3D printing and a lot of digital production that was possible. We had started way back in around 2002 or 3. Now, of course, globally, those Fab Labs are more than, I think, 2,000 or 2,500. And we were very much into this way back. In fact, our Fab Lab has been called Fab Lab Zero, because the person who started this Fab Lab, he got the idea of this concept when he visited Vigyan Ashram, because he said, there's no point in my giving you a solution. What you need is tools so that you can come to your own solutions. And that's how the concept of Fab Lab actually started. And yeah, now the only, let me see if it, is there any way you can move to the next slide?
Ashok, if you can sort of, move out of that projection mode, there is a possibility that you can just remove that projection mode, and then you might be able to sort of, get to the next slide. Just remove that projection mode. वो नीचे पीपीटी में आता है ना एक प्रोजेक्शन का असं एक आयकन असतं बघ तर ते जर आयकन तू दाबलंस त्याच्यावरती तर यू माइट बी एबल टू सॉर्ट ऑफ मूव टू द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड.
Okay, so the technologies, aquaponics, we are also doing, because a lot of people these days are talking about water conservation, how to improve on recycled water, as well as how to grow with minimum pesticides and things like that. So aquaponics is another one which is there. Before the smart cities thing came into fashion, we had already started what we called fab villages, which were nothing but smart villages in that sense. And as part of the Fab Lab culture, Fab Academy, they have been trying to spread this. And this concept we are trying to work and using Pabal as one of our test beds. And the other important thing is what we have always been trying to preach is what we also practice. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why people find there is a lot of relevance to what we are what we are saying and doing. With that, I think we'll go to the question and answers.
Please raise your hands for questions. Deepak?
Okay. First of all, thank you, sir, for the nice presentation. But actually, I'm not sure if it's the right question to ask. But I was just, whenever I look at these kind of models, I'm just curious a bit about the economic sustainability. That is, if we are making these kind of equipments and you're using top-edge technology, we are trying to develop good technology. So, is there a way to make it self-sustenance, or how is the actually funding actually managed for the economical sustenance?
Well, let me put it this way. Whatever is the operational cost, we when we make a product and sell it, we try to recover so that that is negative. But the development, we don't load onto that particular product. For the development purposes, we have different donating agencies, including Department of Science and Technology, which gives us, I mean, we are one of the core NGOs in their 25 group of NGOs with developmental alternatives from Delhi. The two of us basically do a lot of DST work, and they give us a lot of funding. In fact, we are probably one of the few NGOs with DST where they try to push a lot of aid to us or grants, and we hold back because we'll take only what is manageable by us. So that gives us also some credibility. And we have a lot of like ASHA, a lot of the ASHA chapters from the US also are regular funders. These days, because of our track record, we don't need to, actively spend a lot of time for gathering funds. We get our funds very easily. But like I said, most of the things which we are developing products, they are so that the entrepreneur can take off based on the same logic that we have worked on to develop it. And so it is very feasible that it is viable. So most of these things are, whatever we are developing are really viable. Otherwise, we just kill the product because there's no customer for an unviable product. Does that answer your question, I guess?
Partially, sir. But actually, is that my question is more about the future vision. Do you think these kind of education institutes should become sustainable by involving the students in industry and livelihood creation directly in future? Is there a way, or is it, I'm just overthinking?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, our basic thrust has been not so much what the students will be doing, but giving them the required skills and skill sets. So we need to be doing always a lot of work towards developing new things. And those developmental costs is where we take grants and donations. Otherwise, like I said, now even when the students, we incidentally, whatever program we are running, this we have a residential thing where for 1 year those students come and stay with us and they get a DBRT or Diploma in Basic Rural Technology or certificate, or the content is run in more than 125 rural schools in Maharashtra and some of the other states for 8th, 9th and 10th standard. So there, whatever we give them is basically we only do the soft skills part, in the sense that we help them manage and run it. But financially, they are all independently operating. So we don't have any financial tie-up for that. We only provide them the know-hows and the what projects to take up and how to take it up. And we do some training for their staff so that they know how to prepare the new projects. So in that sense, yes. And like I said, a lot of the schools are also interested, because in a lot of the rural schools, a lot of infrastructure which they don't have, through this subject which is taught in the schools, the students have prepared and developed the infrastructure. For instance, in one school, someone donated them about half a dozen computers, and the students built up their computer lab, including the wiring and the partitioning and the furniture and everything. So that way, they begin to appreciate what they are learning, and in that sense, yes, it is viable. Most of the schools, once they have taken up this, they think it is very helpful and viable for them, and therefore their school prestige also goes up. So they do stick to it.
Thank you, sir. Got the answer. Thanks.
Shreyash?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello. Thank you, sir. That's a very exceptional work that you're doing. Actually, I have a question. I have actually three questions. First one is about the community service component. Whether whether Vigyan Ashram is providing vocational training to villagers as well, apart from students.
Uh, Let me put it this way. I have a little bit of a problem when someone says vocational training, because what we are looking at is basically life skills. And one of the life skills that you need to have is how you can identify an opportunity in the community and convert that opportunity into a viable project, so that you can monetize that community need. So yes, we do run short-term courses for anyone who wants it. If the moment there is some kind of a demand for something, we run a small short-term course, maybe a couple of weeks or a couple of months. But anyone can come and join. But most of the time, the problem is one of transportation. So that becomes a bit of a hurdle. And as far as the reach is concerned, that becomes a bit of a constraint, because it's not a residential program when we run it like this. Some of the programs we do run it as a residential also, short term. So then those students, irrespective of from where they come and stay on campus for a couple of days and learn whatever they are doing.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And the other question is whether this pedagogy is continued for higher education as well after +2.
I think it should. Now we don't focus on it because our focus has been essentially only at this level. But yes, um, we are thinking, and a lot of people have approached us to see how it can be done. For instance, I mean, the way Sitara operates also is a lot to do with the way we are trying to do, where learning is by actually doing projects and things like that, and less in the classroom. Pune University, which was chosen as one of those 10 innovation universities, they have a specific course content where for their degree they need to uh, uh, design innovation center is what they have called it, and Vigyan Ashram is design innovation center for Pune University. So some of their students who have picked this course for one semester, they come and stay with us, and either they bring in a project or we suggest to them a project and they work on that project, and they have to actually demonstrate, prepare that project, make that project, and operate it and see what how it pans out. So yes, it can be done for higher education, but like I said, a lot of it will depend on, since we were focusing more on the rural and the youth, the school-going youth. We didn't go too much into that, but yes, we do have some interactions, and the Fab Academy, for instance, is doing that. Incidentally, there is a Fab Lab in the Tata Center at IIT Bombay, and when they got their Fab Lab, they got it from MIT, and they said, who is going to do the installation and who from MIT is going to come. MIT turned around and told them, why do you want us to come from all this distance? You just contact Vigyan Ashram in Pabal and they'll give it to you. And two of our boys came and set up the Fab Lab, and they were in fact absorbed by the Tata Center. And one of them, I think, has now moved on and set up 2 or 3 other fab labs. And one of them, if I remember right, is still there. And they are all learning. So yes, it can be done in higher education as well. But as I look at it, it's more a question of a mindset. To give you a slightly different analogy, if you want to become an airline pilot, for instance, no one puts you directly into the cockpit and says, okay, now let's start flying. They put you on a simulator first. And as the thing becomes more complex, the simulator takes care of all those complexities so that when you actually go into the aircraft, you don't find it abnormal and you are fairly into it. All your senses are fairly tuned to that. So similarly, when you are going through life, why can't you have your education like a simulator? And that is what we are trying to do. That is why we take all the projects from the real life projects from the community, because that is what we would expect any student who goes through us to be useful to the community in which he stays by solving real life problems. So we look at ourselves as simulators for real life experiences, if that is of any help to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And the last question is whether Vigyan Ashram also collaborates with the government school students in the area, in the panchayat.
Yeah, like I said, the government of Maharashtra has recognized our curriculum as a separate optional subject for SSE. And because of that, more than 125, 130 schools in rural Maharashtra have got this, we call it in Introduction to Basic Technology, rural technology actually. And they have a separate subject. We have worked with them so that instead of the subject being, 1 hour class or something like that, 1 day in the week is devoted to this. And the students come and work only the whole day only on that project, because it's not possible to do any project in 45 minutes or 1 hour like you normally have for other subjects. And the feedback has been tremendous. In fact, the Maharashtra government at one point was thinking of making this a core subject because it helped the students tremendously.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your time, sir.
Welcome.
So I had a question that I saw this technology on the Vigyan Ashram website where the pedaling of the bicycle stores energy, and then we can generate, the energy can be used to light up LED lamps for students, especially in the tribal areas. So the first thing is, how do you price a technology so that it is affordable for most of the people? And the second one is how to make people aware that certain technologies exist.
Like I said, most of these projects come to us because someone or the other has expressed a need for it. This particular one came to us because I think one of the UN organizations conducts this developmental marketplace. So one of the NGOs had opted to develop this thing, and they were struggling with it, and they could not do it. So they came to us and said, why don't you help us out in making this pedal powered generator? So we worked on it and we made a success. That NGO got the award for that, and out of the money which came as an award, we try to improve it. And in the meantime, we found 2 students who were of CK Prahlad, who were in the US. They wanted to come back to India and they wanted to start something on their own. They were both working with Ford company, so they were fairly familiar with life cycle testing and all that. So when they came here, they are Pune based. So when they came here and they heard about this, they took it up onto themselves and decided to work on this and make this productionize this basic concept. So they developed this, and except for the, I think in around 6,000-7,000 rupees, they developed a generator, pedal powered generator, which could be mounted on any bicycle frame, or you have these exercising bikes in gyms. So any such frame, you could mount that and generate power, and it would be sufficient to. Then they developed those lights as well, and they found that 10 minutes of pedaling would give you 4 hours of LED light. So then this was converted into a kind of an entrepreneurial venture for remote tribal villagers, and subsequently they had got one more award, and in that award they had to develop it and generate about 300 entrepreneurs in rural areas. So in Chhattisgarh area and all, we did do this as a project where these people would make those kits of those LED lamps, somewhat on similar lines to what Solanki does. So they developed this, and we try to make it like a business proposition where for about 50,000 of investment, that fellow could operate and run about 100 families with whom he could distribute these lights and charge it for them and give it back to them. So yes, these type of things we have been doing, and this has been converted where subsequently, instead of pedal generation, solar panel, and this for I think as low as 1,500. But what change we have done is we have taken a youth from the village, trained him to assemble, and we send it to them as a knockdown kit, which he assembles and then converts it into a product to sell in his village. And that way, he is not only an entrepreneur, he is also knowing enough to maintain those things. Otherwise, most of the time, the problem is it's good as long as it lasts, but after a year or so, no one knows how to maintain it, and they tend to fail. So yes, that is how we have gone about it. And so wherever we have sold, those people are able to use it infinitely.
Thank you, sir. Kaustup?
Good evening, sir. Sir, I had a question related to welding. Means like in rural sector, the technical skills related to welding is not that much. Even though the big corporation find it difficult to do flawless welding like SMW and SAW. So how really does the rural sector gain these skills
Let me
related to it?
Yeah, let me clarify. When we are talking about welding, we are talking about and teaching welding and using welding where welding was not available as a service. So we are talking about local fabricator who has this, who basically does tack welding and creates objects out of it, and not industrial type SAW welding or those things. Those are much more sophisticated and high tech for a rural application. Now, when we went into power, for instance, if the farmer wanted a little bit of welding on his plow, he would have to carry it to Rajguru Nagar, which is about 20 kilometers away, to get it welded. The cost of welding or the cost of the repair would be less than the cost of transportation for him very often. So us providing that, though may not have been very perfect welding, but for him it was a big saving, because then he could get back to his work without having to spend such a lot in both time and resources. So when you are talking of welding, we are not talking of welding as very sophisticated welding, but welding basically to make simple objects, small artifacts and things like that. If anyone becomes more interested, then yes, they could go for more sophisticated welding. We do have plasma welding, for instance, at our place, but then very often because of power problems and those things, it didn't work too well. These days, the power situation has much improved. So yes, we are able to use plasma cutting and things like that. But when we are talking of welding, we are talking of it as a very basic rural workshop level. Right in the beginning, even the welding machines were pretty expensive. And so we had one of the first things that we learned to do and develop, and the students started making their own welding machines. So we were able to do a welding machine for 3,000 and 4,000 rupees, whereas the market ones were available for 20 and 25 in those days. Today, of course, those single phase small machines are now available for 5, 6. So we have stopped making, or we have removed it from our curriculum for making the welding machine itself. So we are more at a fundamental level, if that is of any help to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anand?
Hello, sir. Sir, thank you for this wonderful session, sir. Sir, I have a very general and a basic doubt about my perception towards education. So, sir, your vision, the Vigyan Ashram's inspiring vision, that development through education, the education through development. So, I have a question on those lines, sir. So, sir, today in our society, we can see that the social and economic inequities are very prevalent. So, how do you think, sir, education can address this issue?
I'm not very clear on exactly what your question is, but from what I've understood, how do we justify economically what we are teaching? Is that?
No, sir. My question is, you have enforcing on the value-based education, which is not available in our formal education. So, how this education can address the social and economic inequities which are prevalent in our society?
Okay. See, like I said, all our projects are community-based, right? So, if you are dealing with the community will always highlight the problems they are facing, whether it is water shortage or whether it is garbage waste, how to reconvert garbage, or you name it. I mean, if they see it as a problem, or when we are interacting with them, and because of our knowledge, we can contribute and say, if you do it like this, it will be better. So that is how we are looking at the education coming into the developmental part. Because all said and done, most of the time you will find that technology is not so much an issue as much as the technology be implemented and adapted by the village. And from our experience, I can tell you that no two villages, even if they are just 10 kilometers apart, are likely to have the same technological solution. When I say technological solution, I mean how it is implemented. So it is best that if we can show them how it can be done, and then they come out with their own tweaks to make it viable for them. Because their own tweaks, they know where it pinches, and therefore they will find the means of overcoming that problem. And we are only, in that sense, facilitators or catalysts for them to develop. Is that make sense to you?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Agnihotri, sir?
Yeah, Ashok, educating as always. Every time I listen to your presentation, something new comes up. This particular pedal-operated generator that you're talking about,
yeah,
I think can have extremely in disaster situations where there is a long power outage. And classic case was the Puri cyclone, which happened, where the Puri district, the restoration of power took, in some cases, even 20 odd days. Because the first casualty after 2 days is mobile charge. So I think might be a good idea if you can put me in touch with those entrepreneurs. We need to keep a small kind of a write-up or a flyer, leave it with all the disaster management authority people or even NDRF, because normal course they will say, nahi, humko iski zarurat nahi hai. But what will happen is typically when they see power outage, Do you think it will have a utility in terms of transporting it and say कि भाई अब अपना साइकिल के साथ लगाओ और कम से कम मोबाइल चार्ज करो?
Yeah, see, practically any of these solar chargers and lamp chargers, we invariably have a plug-in point where a mobile charger can be plugged in. So most of the time in rural areas, we appreciate and understand that mobile charging is a big thing. Sometimes they need to go into a place where electricity is available and pay 10 rupees to get their mobile charged. Whereas they could have done it in their village and saved the earning capacity of that one day. Yes, we do think that is where I said we did this as a project where we went into those villages and trained about 300 odd people. This was, I think, in near Dantewada and Chhattisgarh areas, where these entrepreneurs, we brought them together and gave them training, and then we gave them as kits so that they could assemble it and make a living out of it to some extent.
Yeah, that's a normal situation. I'm just looking at in disaster situations, a natural disaster where there's a power outage. I think we probably need to, and why I'm not so much in favor of solar, but the pedal operated is because the disaster typically is a situation where solar may not be dependable. You have continuous cloud for 3 days. So pedal operated is more reliable. So
certainly, it could be done.
Okay.
I could connect you with the people who are based out of Pune who are making this. But they found that there wasn't that much of a market for it, because in fact, even I had suggested, people of armed forces along the border, there you can't put things out where it would be visible or shine off and expose them, but they could as well provide some kind of exercise as well as charging of their batteries and things for their communication and lighting needs in their bunkers. So even that was thought of, but well, things like this take a long time to move through bureaucracy.
Yeah, but then I think let them get in touch with me. Try to see, particularly I see disaster management authorities might, I mean, they may not immediately be enthusiastic, but comes a need, suddenly they will realize the utility of it, and NDRF may keep it as a inventory.
Certainly.
Yeah, thanks.
Are these Ashish and Anirudh in Pune?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bopi.
Yeah.
The pyramid, something, I forget the full form, but
yes, I have interacted with him.
Yeah, you probably would have.
Any more questions? So I think that was the last question that we had. So with this, we come to the end of the session, and thank you so much for sir for the interesting session. And I would like to ask Anand sir to say a few words to conclude.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, Professor Shah is also here if he wants to say something.
Yes, Ashok, actually, when we had a KVIC project, they had also expressed interest in this, pedal power generator. So one of the challenges that we had was, these PMDC motors, permanent magnet DC generators, they don't work on lower RPM. What happens is like, when you pedal at whatever 50, 60 RPM. And then you do step up and sort of, so there are not many manufacturers of these PMDC motors which can sort of, create current which can sort of, then be stored in the batteries, So that was one of the challenges that we faced. And obviously, of course, once we take a tractor battery of whatever, 60 ampere hours or something like that, if you don't have that generator of required specifications, that was one of the challenges, because we did work for 2-3 years on this. We did what you call, dirtied our hands also, if you want to say. And we had one of your unit also at that point in time was brought here, and the innovative thing that we found here was like, it was very sleek. Your thing was very sleek and sort of, but what we thought that if we can have a slightly sort of, bigger operations, like the battery charging for tractor batteries, for example, if we can do this. But yes, in the sense that people where there is a tribal people where there is absolutely need, people don't mind peddling. And we thought that in urban communities, for example, people are doing these treadmills and things like that. So we took our generators to a Panvel gym side, where we thought that people will come to do their exercise. And we tried to sort of combine for how urban communities also can sort of use their both exercising and electricity generation and combining or something like that. But yes, I mean, it is a challenging thing. What one sees is this rural urbanization. One of the side effect is, even in the rural areas, that people are getting sort of, they want a button and the light should come. So nobody wants to make efforts to light their house by so I mean, this is something what you call as a social challenge of whatever
In fact, this was provided in one of the IT companies in Hingewadi, and they had put it out near their canteen, and if you pedaled for a given amount of time, you would get coupons which you could encash in the canteen. So even that was considered that it was tried out.
Right. Yeah. Good, but nice to hear. Like these small initiatives like Pabal Vigyan Ashram at different places, and what we always say, and I think if Professor Date is still there, I mean, he used the term called horizontal technology transfer, that if something had succeeded somewhere, and if it finds some sort of I think the efforts must continue. Thank you very much for sort of encouraging our students.
We are very conscious of that, and because of that, you will find that there is only one Vigyan Ashram at Pabal. We don't want to make any branding and this thing, because we want, our basic philosophy is that people should start developing in their own locations and not take a imported solution. So we encourage people to start their own concept of Vigyan Ashram with these basic tenets, and a lot of them have come up.
Yeah. Anand, you would like to sort of formally thank Ashok for what do you call putting all those encouraging words for young students, and sort of the appropriate technology still survives, I would say, by looking at the example of Pabal Vigyan Ashram. Yeah, Anand.
You have already said it. So yes, thank you so much, Mr. Ashok Kalbag, for taking out time. It's always pleasure to listen to you, and it reminds good memories of visiting Vigyan Ashram very long time ago, but now it is overdue. So whenever the situation permits, I promise the first year students that will go to Vigyan Ashram during their MTech tenure, hopefully.
Most welcome.
Yes. Okay, so thank you so much again, and then wish everyone a happy National Education Day.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Same to everyone, and a happy Diwali soon coming.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And I think, Anand, this is the last seminar, perhaps, or external speaker for this semester.
You can announce.
Because looking at the students' sort of anxiety, next week 17th was not possible to hold any seminar this semester.